Live with Ryan Ries. This is Live with Ryan Ries. Call now 1-888-564-6173 or post your questions using the hashtag #LiveRyanReese on his Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to have Loli Romo on the show today. We were actually just talking about sports, and I was talking about going to a cheer competition with my nieces, and there was this one dude there that was like a trainer or something, and he was standing there, and then he would like throw one foot into the air, like splits and catch it, and then and then slam down.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what the heck? And all the parents are like, what the heck is going on? What is going on? And he was doing it the whole time.
Oh, yeah,
and then what's
man.
interesting enough, months later, I ended up, I was going through Instagram funny videos, and he came up on one of these videos, and he was tagged. So I ended up showing my nieces. I'm all, dude, look, remember that guy? He's like, he has like this huge following too. He's like some big like cheer guy or something. Oh my goodness! Well, in case you guys didn't know, me and my wife had triplets not too long ago.
Congratulations!
And we have them home now, and I have the feeling that cheer, is like
part of your life.
It's like in the distance somewhere.
Yep.
So who knows what's gonna happen? But God's good, and He handles business. But we got one of my good friends, Loli, in studio. She actually is Loli. Let's tonight we're gonna talk about beauty and image.
Okay.
And obviously our background, I met you 9 years ago or 8 years ago, something.
Yeah, 9, I think.
Because I met you right when I got saved.
Yeah.
So that was like almost 9 years ago.
Yep.
I met you through your cousin, Sonny Sandoval, and your brother is Wov. And I don't know, we just we clicked, all of us, your family, our families are actually very close.
Yeah. It's because we're both smart mouths.
It's crazy. Your family's crazy. My family is too.
Are you kidding? You just tried to run me over in the parking lot. I haven't seen you in months, and you try to run me over. So don't talk about my family, punk.
I come around the corner, and all of a sudden, Loli's like, "Ah!" I'm like, I go to swerve into her, and then I get out of the car, and then you came to talk to me, and I was like trying to push you, like, "Hey, go back in your car."
And then he throws a stink bomb at me.
And then
I
had a
heard
stink
he
bomb.
told me.
What,
he was
like-
bragging about it.
Okay, it's on.
It was on. So
I'm gonna get your daughters their first makeup kit. You watch.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
You're
Red
done.
lipstick and
You're done. No.
winged liner.
Done.
Mink lashes and all.
No. So with all that, we've done a lot of ministry and stuff together when the Whosoever's movement started. But I want to talk about what you do, because what you do is it's so relevant, and it's gnarly to see where the world's at, and your clients and the girls, maybe for the listeners, your daughters, your stepdaughters, your nieces, your mother. I mean, who to anyone could be dealing with these issues, beauty and image issues.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started with this whole beauty and image, getting into that whole getting into the
Makeup industry. I actually, you know my story, and a lot of my girls know my story, but I got pregnant at 16 years old and ended up getting married at 18 years old. And so with that, obviously there's not really much of a career choice, in that. And so when my husband, was just doing all that he could to provide for our family, I was looking at opportunities in ways that I could help, but still have my priorities intact, which was be a girlfriend to my husband and a wife and a good mom to my kids. And so the weekend seemed like an obvious free time for me because my husband was home. So my best friend, who has now passed away, she was in the makeup industry, started with M.A.C when they first came to California, looked at me, was like, "You look weird. You wear all black all the time anyways. You might as well just come and work with us." So that's how I got started, I was with M.A.C. And I took, actually my brother Wov, he ended up buying me a makeup course for my birthday so that I could actually be certified. So every once in a while, I'll do a little flashback of like, thank you for giving me this opportunity of what I have. So that's how I got started, just, wanting to help my husband, and then God just took it. I mean, I didn't fall in love with makeup. I'm a tomboy. Like, I'm all into football.
Yeah.
I love heels and shoes and good jeans, but like, I'm a tomboy at heart. Like, I didn't wear makeup on my wedding day. So to actually jump into the makeup career and become something in it, I think blew my family away, blew my husband away, blew myself away. But it was just one of those things that I dedicated when I was there. If I was there for 10 hours, I was going to dedicate it completely. Yeah. And I fell in love with not the makeup, but the people. Man, I loved closing sales.
Yeah.
Because, man, I could sell a ketchup popsicle to an Eskimo wearing white clothes. Like, dude, don't even mess around. Like, I found that it was like I was finding myself again. I lost myself at 16 because I feel like I failed the church. I failed God. I failed my family. And in that 10 to 15 hours that I was on counter, I was slowly finding myself, again, not because of the makeup, but because I was having a voice with people and my heart was growing in compassion towards women who, had scars on their face or all these things. And I'd be like, dude, don't go buy this. Go to CVS, man. Like, it's $10 cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even get commission, so don't even trip, So I built like a major client base by being honest.
Yeah.
And by loving people. And so that's how this crazy game got started.
That's amazing.
Just by that.
And then even like 9 years ago, I don't know if Daughters of the King was already existed at that time. Did it exist?
It did.
What was going on with that whole thing?
Oh, man,
what is it?
Okay, so that story is crazy in and of itself. So we owned a skate shop, me and my husband and my brother and his wife at the time. We owned a skate shop together called The Orphanage. And I was doing my own thing. Like, I was serving God. I was serving myself. Pretty much, and I would just go to church on Sundays because that's what I was raised to do. I have a friend, she's actually here with me, Liz, who's now one of my best friends. She would come into the skate shop.
Which one's Liz?
Right over there.
That's your best friend?
Yeah, she's one of my best friends. Sketchy, I know.
We'll see.
Keep her around. She does whatever I want. No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
That's awesome.
So God used her big time because she would come into the skate shop all the time, and she'd be like, hey, let's go have, she was like hardcore into the church. She was a good girl.
Yeah.
She served in the church and all this stuff, which is I never would have done.
Yeah.
And so she would be like, hey, let's go have coffee. I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. Text me. She'd go to M.A.C when I would work. And she'd be like, hey, what's up, Starbucks? And I'm like, call me. Have your people call my people. Because I didn't. There's no way. I knew this chick could see right through me because I still knew, and you can detect people who love the Lord authentically. And I stayed away from her. Well, long story short, things happened in my life. God broke me down, hit my knees, fell in love with the Lord. He was the affair that I was having that I wasn't ashamed of. I was sneaking away with God in the middle of the night. I was going to parks and sitting in my car having a love affair with the Lord and his word. And it was just this crazy time. It was 2 hours, I couldn't wait for my husband to leave.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want God.
Yeah.
My kids didn't know him. They just knew Sunday. And so I was waiting for my family to leave so I could have this love affair.
Yeah.
And in that, it was about 1.5 years that he just, he shut my mouth. He sewed my mouth shut. He hit me on my knees and he just called me away. And I remember I saw her. It was April 8th. That's my, resurrection birthday or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
April 8th, it was on Easter, and I saw Liz because I had rededicated my life to the Lord. And I saw Liz walking down, and I was like, dang, man, I guess I should have coffee with her now. So I was like, hey, yo, your people call my people. And she was like, sure.
Yeah.
So we ended up connecting. I think it was it was that day after church. She looked at me, she's all, you ready for this? And I'm like, what? She's all, it's go time. And I'm like, nah, fool, this ain't no good. She's like, nah, I've been praying for you. Let's go. And I'm like, all right, cool, we'll have coffee. No joke. We sat down, we had coffee, we would eat, we'd have lunch together. And she's like, let's go. You're going to do this. I've been praying for you. God showed me. You're going to lead. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going to lead. You're going to lead, fool. Just because you're a wimp, don't be putting the big mouth in front, but she knew.
Yeah.
It was crazy. God had been showing her and her husband had been praying for me and my husband. And so I had this huge opportunity to be around M.A.C artists every day of my life. And these girls were broken and crazy and everything that you think they are, and worse. And, but they knew that there was something different in me because, I was crazy and I wasn't walking with the Lord, but I was still a good girl.
Yeah.
I still wanted to go home to my husband and I wanted to cook dinner and all that stuff. And so they saw that in me. And so when they needed something, they came to me and I was the mom for all these girls throughout San Diego that they would call. And so all of a sudden she's like, hey, dude, you have this studio. Let's just get together and pray, me and you. And I was like, all right, so let's do it Monday nights. All right, cool. Got together and she's like, well, let's just open up. So we got together one Monday night just to pray. Hour, cool. Went home. Next Monday night. From Monday to Monday, I was like, dude, God showed me something. So I was like, hey, da, da, da. And it ended up becoming like 15 minutes of me sharing what God showed me. And she's just looking at me like, next Monday. full on study. I'm like, dude, listen what God showed me. And she's just sitting back in the cut.
So God was already working in your life, like helping you put together Bible studies in a sense. And you didn't even know it.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And she's looking at me like, this chick, I already seen this.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay, it's go time. Well, God had given me this place where it wasn't the church. It wasn't intimidating to these girls who had never been in a church.
Yeah.
And so when I was at the counter, if this girl was broken, I'd be like, dude, just come by Monday. I'm telling you, God's not, I'm not going to shove them down your throat. Let's just sit and have a conversation. So it started because it was a safe place for the people that I loved, who I worked with, that would never step foot in a church.
This is actually, this is at a salon?
This was at a salon.
This is at a salon, okay.
Yeah, at my makeup studio.
Okay, hold on one sec. If you just tuned in, you're listening to Live with Ryan Ries. We have Loli Romo in studio talking about beauty and image. Before we go on, Sean, do you want to plug really quick the Whosoever stuff?
You guys, just with everything that's taking place with the Whosoevers, you're listening to just an amazing show. Loli is a close friend of ours, and you're going to hear an amazing story throughout this show. But with the Whosoevers, it's a linked vision, kind of the same vision that Loli has as well. You can go to thewhosoevers.com and just check out all the product that's there. All the product of the Whosoevers funds the movement. It goes right back in to the vision of it, which is reaching out to our friends, family. Ryan's going to high schools with a theme called Kill the Noise. They've done so many high schools. If you're interested in bringing Ryan through those, you can just contact us at any time throughout the website. You have a vision behind this. You want to be a part of the movement. You pray about the movement. You want to give to the movement. You're able to. Go to the Whosoevers. Follow us on social media, on any of it, from Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to keep up with everything that's taking place.
What's dope, too, is Loli's whole vision is the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just a different movement.
Totally.
But it's still a movement of the Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
So now you have this building, and it's a safe zone for these girls.
It was a safe zone for these girls, and all of a sudden it went from 3, 4, 5 girls to 10, 15, 20, 30. And then it was like, well, what is it that you're doing on Monday nights? Like, dude, we're just hanging out. We're just praying. So it wasn't a Bible study. It just became this gathering of broken women who were different, tatted, lesbian, whatever. I didn't care. It didn't matter. It was a salon. It was safe. But it was a place where they could test the waters with God. But this whole time, God was, again, I'm having this love affair that I was not ashamed of. And he was building in me a brokenness that was relevant to these girls because they were seeing it. So it was almost like he was walking me through their situations in my own life. So it ain't no joke doing that stuff. And so before you know it, I'm getting girls like, what is this? What is this? What is? I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Don't put no pressure on me. Like, I don't know, dude. Like, why don't you do it? And then it just became what it was. And I remember in Ezekiel 16, and it's Ezekiel 16, 9 through 14, where it talks about how he took, he poured oil on them and he washed all the mud off on them and he anointed their head with oil. He put bangles on their arms and sandals of badger fur on their feet, and he put perfumes on them, and he put a crown on their head, and he told them, your name will be known to the nations because of the beauty I bestowed upon you. And I remember I heard that over and over and over and over again, and that was where I found my identity, because I didn't know who I was. Was I POD's little sister? Was I a M.A.C makeup artist? Was I a pregnant teenage mom, or who was I? And in that moment, God was saying, you're my daughter. And so I went the next day and got it tatted on my foot. And all these girls were seeing that, and they're like, dude, that's what I am. And I'm like, you know why I put it on my foot? Because God reminds me every single day, one step at a time towards obedience leads to me. Every step you take towards obedience leads to me. And a closer relationship with me. And not only does it lead it to me, but it's paved with my blood. So it's a red carpet. And girls and red carpets. Red bottoms and red carpets. We're all about that.
Done deal. I want to touch on that one thing that you just said. You said the identity, because you were trying to figure out your identity. And I think that's a huge problem. Man, I think just across the board, everyone is finding their identity of who they are. Some people try and, like I had Lacey Sturm in here from Flyleaf. She was talking about people try to find their identity through their sexuality, through lesbianism or whatever it is. But she said you have to find your identity in Christ
first. And
that's exactly what you found. You found your identity in Christ, because all the other stuff is just noise. Right. Or you the cousin of the lead singer of POD, the drummer, or am I this pregnant, or mother, am I this, I'm that? you find that identity in Christ, and then God shows you where you need to be and what you need to be doing. It's so crucial. Touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not gonna sit here and candy coat anything. You know me.
How do people find their identity in Christ? Girls that are listening to this.
You know what? Well, here's what I firmly believe. I believe that the majority of these girls that I'm seeing that don't have any identity, they're like dead leaves in a windstorm. Man, I mean, that's exactly what I see. And I really, truly, honestly believe it's because of the lack of men. The valor,
quality of men is
the
big
valor,
influence.
the influence of a man in a young girl's life, one of integrity and valor and worth. That's honest to God. I kept going back to my dad. I'm really, really close to my dad. I'm a daddy's girl to the core. And even though my mom is now my best friend, in those moments of brokenness, I went to my dad. Because I was still learning how to go to the Lord. Because like you kind of want to hide your sin from God sometimes. But I was finding solace and refuge in just hugging my dad. Not saying a word.
Yeah.
But just when I would see him, I would just hug him in the comfort of that. So one, I truly believe that fathers need to step up. And they need to push and pursue their daughters when they turn 10, 11, 12, 13. It's easy to pursue them when they're a baby. They're so cute and they're your baby girl. But at 9 years old is when men, they kind of push because they don't know their boundary with their daughter. And I keep telling my husband that you need to push hard.
Yeah.
You need to hug her harder, longer, because if you separate yourself, or even like when you hug your daughter and at 10 you separate yourself a little bit, she doesn't know why you're doing that. But for a man, you know what I mean? You're like, oh my God, this is my little girl. You're maybe seeing differences in her body, but I keep telling my husband, squeeze her tighter because that's where she's going to know every's okay.
How old's your daughter right now?
My daughter's 12.
She's 12.
They still wrestle every night before they go to bed.
Squeeze her hard.
Yeah, beat her, man.
No, that's no, that's good. That's
Don't
good.
call CBS on me, guys.
I don't know. I don't have the daughters that are old enough yet right now. But my nieces, every time I see them, I'm like,
yes,
get over here, kiss them. I don't care. Don't try and get away from me. Get over here.
Absolutely, man.
What's so important is this: a couple of things that you've been hitting on, Loli. Like it's crazy how this whole really what it is a ministry that has started so fresh. And it's how you started to see everything's relationships.
Totally.
Everything's relational. People want to feel loved. You know, there's this old book that I read before, and it was D.L. Moody, who was a pastor back in the day in the 1800s. And he was asked a question, if there was one message you would preach on every day or every Sunday, what would it be? He's like, that's easy. God is love. And he's like, why? Because you show me somebody that understands love, and God will do amazing work through their life. Show me somebody that does not know love, and I'll show you the wretchedness, how dark a man's heart can be.
Yeah.
You know, and the world around us, Satan does that. He blinds people. He distorts God's character. And for so long, Moody says, is that men find themselves and women find themselves running from God because they feel that God is against them. In actuality, God is like a loving father holding his arms out and bringing them closer. And relationships are vital. The way that we communicate with people about our faith is always due to relationships. Jesus dealt with people individually in their needs. You always bring up the Samaritan woman. You bring up the woman that are caught in adultery. You bring up other guys that were caught up in different sins, some of them from sexual perversion, it would seem like, if you break down some of the texts. So the Lord met them in their needs. And when we're set free from these things, we have to remember too. I always tell my wife and with my children, I never want to raise my children like it's us against them.
Yeah.
Like it's us Christians against the world. That's not what it is. It's like, dude, I ran with the world and was against the things of the Lord for all of my life. But God loved me, and he can love all the people that we're surrounded with. So I think the time is very valuable with the relationships we have in the workplace. A lot of people go to coffee houses or at gym. Our society today is changing so much. You know, and one of the things of social media and the fast-paced society that's there, I was reading a survey just the other day, and it was talking about, isn't it amazing that communication with people can happen so quickly? You can communicate with anybody from here in Southern California or across the world just like that. But statistics show that even though we have the ability to be connected with all our friends and family, keep up with all of the stuff, people are more depressed and there's more issues than ever before. You know, because a lot of people are putting a pressure, and I know you deal with this a lot, of a focus on the outward. They always want to try to show how many likes they have, how many friends they have. And this is where they start finding their identity. And they don't know. After a while, they get lost. You know, these girls know how to pose just perfectly right so their bodies look better, how the faces look. You know what I'm saying? Then you see them in person, they look totally different, right?
Come up here, look like Freddie Jackson.
Hey, I could fix that.
But it's a pressure. It's a pressure that this society is bringing on women to try to be something that they're not, and guys too.
Well, it's making girls even take off items of their clothes,
right,
on their Instagram to get
it's
more
ridiculous.
likes. It's crazy.
It's absolutely bonkers. I always use, just when I'm talking everyday women, women, friends, coworkers, I always use the image of Robin Williams. He was the happiest person. You would never think of somebody like him being in a full-blown depression where he would take his own life.
Never.
It blew. It's like that jet.com commercial where the purple blows out of your head. You're like, what? Like, no way. I always use that. Like, it's all false. I could be anybody I wanted to be if I really didn't know who I was. And it goes back to those relationships. You show me a girl who has an amazing relationship with her father, whose father loves the Lord, and I'll show you a girl who knows her worth. There ain't nothing gonna rock that girl. Yeah, she's gonna go through life because faith can't be trusted unless it's tested, obviously, and we're not perfect. But I'll tell you what, there's one thing she never does is question her worth, because she's got a daddy here on earth that's a representation of a daddy in heaven, and she knows. So first things first, daddies, get it right.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so important. Being valuable. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with people that have been broken, and doing ministry, I've dealt with a lot, guys and girls that have been, lived a crazy lifestyle. Some of them are strippers for a long time, and they're just so jacked up in their mind, and that God's starting to put their lives back together, and it's just reaffirming to them, look, you're very valuable in God's sight. He loves you so much, and that's what happens. The society around is devalue people. It rips you up, and that's what Satan does. He comes to seek to kill and destroy and rip you off of something that you thought would bring life, but it actually brings death.
Devaluing too is like with the music. I mean, the music, what they're pushing through Instagram, all these things that are pushing is that girls are just. The stuff coming out of the guys' mouths to the music is just sleep with as many girls as you can. They show pictures of like 5 girls in bed with one rapper or whatever it is, and it devalues the.
And these women begin to believe that that's all their worth is.
Yeah.
You'll never believe what it looks like when I have a girl in my chair and I look at her and I'm like, man, without anything on, because they come in completely vulnerable. That's another reason why I love doing this. Because if you guys got wives, if they wear makeup, I know I don't go anywhere without my eyebrows and my mascara. I'm not stepping out without my eyebrows on. I got the insecurities, Ryan. Right. I got to fill in my brows. But you know what I'm saying? But if I
let me see your brows.
Hey, nah. I've been up
that
since
one's
3.
kind of tweet though.
You know what I'm saying? I talked to my mom and dad about that car accident. But you know what? Like, here's the thing. These girls are coming into my chair vulnerable. But naked on the face.
Yep. No, you're right.
And so they have no security guard.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're in this place vulnerable with me, because a lot of times that is their worth. And now in this Kylie Jenner generation, that's all they have. You know what I mean? And so these women are finding worth in becoming the girl that all these men say they are before the men are telling them they have to do that. You know what I mean? We just had a Lyft driver last night asking us for advice. We were getting, we got
a Lyft driver?
Lyft driver, like an Uber driver.
Oh, gotcha.
But Lyft, he came and picked us up, and he was hearing us talking. He was like, yo, I needed advice. I'm speaking to this Hispanic girl. I need advice. And, he's telling me, she's different, whatever. And we're like, dude, don't pursue her.
Right.
How about you just get to know her? And he's like, oh, so be different than everybody else. And I'm like, what? When chivalry? Is it dead? Like, open the car door for her. Like, you know what I mean? So be different. And these girls are seeing that, oh, dude, first date means sex. Second date means sex with another dude.
Yep.
Third date, you know what I mean? Sex is a part of a date.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
that is crazy. Things have changed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. But that's what they're seeing. That's what they know. And that's where they value their beauty, is in what other people say they are.
Yep. Like exactly like you said, people value themselves on their likes,
Yep.
their views.
Well, hashtag like for like.
And their
Tags for likes.
and their Instagram
Yeah.
and all these different platforms. It's
Dude,
a crazy world.
It brings on like a crazy pressure on
You
people's minds,
you could become a rock star literally in social media world and not do anything.
I'm
Oh,
going
it
to drop the
happens all
mic
the
real
time.
fast. Do not get me started on Instagram makeup artists.
We still got 30 minutes left of the show.
No,
Oh, we'll do that on the other side of the break.
because you can put up a facade
Yep.
all day long.
Oh yeah.
All day long. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love to say that I dropped 30 pounds, but in reality, when you see me in real life, that's not the truth. But I can sure make it look like it on Instagram.
And the reality is, this is the reality of the whole thing. I have friends that have tons of money, and they have the world at their fingertips, and they're still empty.
They have nothing.
And I have not girlfriends, friends that are girls that have the same great looking girls, but they're empty and they're broken.
nothing.
Nothing. You could have all this stuff. You could look any way you want. You could have, if your dream is to have Ferraris and red and yellow and whatever you want to do in a $20 million house down in Laguna Beach, you will still be broken. Because that stuff will make you excited for a short time. It's very temporary.
It's
The lust of
Botox.
the eyes, the pride of life, and the lust of the flesh. It's Botox, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
It lasts for a certain amount of time, and then you're going to be empty and broken. We're going to go to the break. We got like 3 minutes left. Sean, go ahead and plug how people could actually get a hold of us.
Well, a couple things. This is Live with Ryan Ries. It's been amazing doing the show. I can't believe we've been doing it for over a year now. But to keep up with speed with everything that's taking place on this show, you can go to ryanreese.com, ryan-reese.com. You guys know that Ryan teaches on Thursday and Sunday nights. On Thursday nights, he teaches in Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa at 7 p.m. at the Caris Building, and then in Diamond Bar, Calvary Chapel, Golden Springs at 6 p.m. Both of those things are webcast, but you can get more information on Ryan's website. And all of our radio archives from the beginning of our first show, I believe at the end of February in 2015, up to these current shows are all there for you. So go through them, share them with your friends and family. It's amazing all the feedback that we're getting from the radio. We love to hear from you, so just comment on any of Ryan's social medias.
It's pretty crazy how far everything's been reaching. How you got
Can you
the
believe
Philippines phone call, and then
I know.
just people like watching online. You just never know. You know what's cool is on our website, they could be signed up to the podcast, or they could watch the video webcast. And there's other stuff on there.
Yeah, and if you're listening to this right now, just a reminder, yes, you can listen on the radio stations. You can find that on Ryan's radio station, but you can also watch us live as well.
So you get to see people in here that maybe kind of look tore up. But yeah. No, it's
Exactly.
It's been awesome. Yeah, really quick, I want to plug that documentary. I know we have like a minute left or something, but let's plug that documentary that my dad just came out with.
Oh, we just put together like an amazing documentary on Ryan's dad. It's called A Journey of Grace, because a lot of people see the big church that he's a part of and think like, man, how did this happen? Like, it didn't just get there.
Or
like,
take it for granted.
Or take it for granted. You know, it really started by a man that was broken, that was about to kill himself and kill his children and his wife because he was so beat up, he's so messed up mentally. And you guys know Ryan's dad's story is a dramatic conversion. But man, he barely made it through high school. You know, he could barely read at that time. And then when God got a hold of his life, he began diving into the Bible. He was so nervous to even start a Bible study that he just listened to Chuck Smith on a cassette tape with 7 people in a house. And that little Bible study would begin to develop in what Calvary Chapel Golden Springs, simple beginnings, and how he brought his best friend, Dale Goddard, and they came together, little punks, you know, fighting people all the way through high schools. And then God bringing them together to do this gnarly path. And we've kind of taken this whole story. We take Raul and Dale through all of the past from like where they grew up all the way to like the Fox Theater and like Kung Fu Studio. And then you had Skip Isaac, Don McClure, all these guys talking about the influence of your dad. And like, it's a pretty crazy thing. So you can go to somebodylovesyou.org to download a copy of that. It's pretty amazing.
Sounds like pretty much like the story that we're talking about tonight.
Simplicity, man.
When we get back in the
Simple
next
beginnings.
2 minutes, we're going to continue with Loli Romo, just talking about beauty and image. And I was hearing about when she was praying for you, your best friend, and then you were scared to do Bible studies. It's just like my dad, what he was doing in the Kung Fu studio, sketched out but doing it.
Yep.
All right, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
More Live with Ryan Ries coming up.
Is everything all right?
Call now 1-888-564-6173 or post your questions using the hashtag #LiveRyanReese on his Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.
I think I speak for the entire administration when I say whoop-de-doo.
Now, back to Live with Ryan Ries. Don't say we didn't warn you. Loud noises!
Right on. So tonight we got Loli Romo in studio talking about beauty and image. She works in the makeup industry, and it's such a gnarly industry because so many people are looking at social media, looking at TV, looking at magazines, just looking at what the world has to offer. And what's crazy, Loli, is that let's talk about on this half, what does the world have to offer? What are all these kids, adults, let's just say women across the board, what are they looking at in society and trying to become, and what is the repercussions, and what is the mind state? What are these conversations you're having? What is happening?
Man, they're lost, man. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm exactly where I need to be.
No one is.
You know what I mean?
None of us are.
But I feel like what I'm seeing lately is just a generation that is hopeless. Mm-hmm. You know, we're in turmoil in our politics and our government and the housing situation and food and what's in our food. I mean, we're in crisis mode.
Oh my gosh.
Everything,
yeah.
Every aspect of every part of our life is crisis mode right now. Food, friends, likes, politics, prices are too expensive, gas is, it's just mayhem. And so what I'm seeing is just a lost generation that has no footing. One of my favorite quotes from a president was Ronald Reagan, where it says, each generation surpasses the next because it stands on the shoulders of the generation previous to it. And I feel like the shoulders are weak because we've become a selfish society. And we're all about self-seeking, self-serving. One of the things that I teach in my makeup school, the first thing that these girls come in, because I don't know who's coming into my school, who's taking the class. I just know them by their names and, if they put a deposit down.
Right.
And so they come in, and the first thing right off the bat when they come in is I always tell them, hey, just because you're taking a class to become a makeup artist and a professional makeup artist in a glamorous industry, because that's what you think, I want you to know that you're no greater than the server that served you your coffee this morning, that you're no greater than a Denny's waitress, because we're here to serve. If your mentality is not to serve other people first, you will never, ever find fulfillment in anything. And so I think right now, the crisis is in our own heart. Homes are breaking. They're it's almost like when there's going to be a blackout and everybody runs for water, and remember Y2K and all that. That's exactly where the next generation is. They're in crisis mode. They don't know how long we have, and so they're going self-serving.
Yeah.
Everything they're doing is self-serving. And so that's all I'm seeing is this crisis in these little girls, because I got to get a husband now, because if I get when I get out of high school, if I'm not pregnant and I don't have, then I'm just going to be an old hag.
Wow.
Or hey, I'm 20 to 35. If I'm going to play the field, and if I don't want to settle down, then guess what? I'll just become a cougar after that. Because there's these titles that people in society are putting on other people, that if you don't fit this standard or this mold,
you have to be married by 30 too, right? Like people like that's another.
That's like, yeah, and
no,
if you don't
that's
have
another.
kids, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's another thing. A woman has to be married by the time they're 30 or something.
We put these really crazy things on us, and if they don't like the way that sounds, then they're like, nah, forget you. I'm never getting married, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be a cougar for the rest of my life. Watch, I'm gonna be successful. Money is my husband.
Yeah.
Like, so it's this prideful mentality. With every situation they're in, they turn it into a selfish mode. Pregnancy becomes selfish. Divorce becomes selfish. Whatever. If it's self-seeking, and the minute that crisis dies out, they try and find another crisis to make themselves feel worthy. Look at what is his name? Bruce Jenner. He died off. You know what I mean? Like it's not hot anymore. So now it's like we were talking about on the break. So now what's he trying to do? Now he's turning his now he's saying, well, now I kind of do want to date men, when he was totally against that.
Yeah.
But it's because numbers are down.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what.
Did his show get canceled?
I don't even know, man.
I think the show got canceled. I think
it might.
I don't know.
Maybe.
But that's the thing. Like, I work with Bravo TV. I work on Fox Sports and Lifetime and Hallmark. I work on all these stations, and I see the facade. I see the back end of it. And you know what's crazy is, Ryan, that I used to go around and speak all over at churches and stuff. And I walked, that was a season of my life that God was really pruning me, teaching me. I got bitter at God's people very quickly, because I was seeing behind the veil of how a church worked. And I was putting my focus on the flaws of them instead of the brokenness of us. And I was so bitter, and I stopped speaking everywhere because I just couldn't handle, the rock star mentality of the church. Yep. And at the end of the day, it was me that God had to discipline, because it's not my job to look at that. But I feel like now, 3 years later, having not spoken 3 years, just starting to speak again, he's showing me that was for purpose. Because now I'm going into the behind the scenes of Bravo and Lifetime, Fox. I was on set for 18 hours with Tiger Woods the other day. And now I'm seeing the behind the veil of the world. And he's showing me, don't look at them. Keep on me. Remember how I had to take that position with you of discipline? And that's something that God's been reminding me of and pressing in my heart. I'm forever going to take two positions with you, Loli. I'm either going to stand to defend you because you're walking in my truth, or I'm going to stand to discipline you because I love you that much. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's crisis mode in the world, and everybody's self-serving and running out for that Y2K water, putting bleach drops in it until they can fulfill whatever it is they think they need. But we know it's him.
That's connected to everything, actually. It's funny, you started off that whole segment kind of talking about how you break down to the girls of serving and not thinking of yourself more highly than you ought to when you get into the scene and everything. And as you were talking, I mean, the stories of Jesus are just coming more prevalent in my mind. Like, it's not a coincidence, the things that you find in the Bible, the heaviness that he put in servanthoods and people that want to be great. James and John, he kind of put in their place. I want to have on the left side and right side. And we know one of them was, their mom is the one that kind of told them that. But he said, you want to be the greatest? Become the servant of all.
Yep.
Before he went to the cross, he washed the disciples' feet. And the message was this. It wasn't washing feet. People can go do foot washing things all over the place. People have like clean feet now. Not mine.
Right.
I got nasty feet.
I see your toes. One's green, actually.
But what it was a lesson. It was a lesson of this. If I'm being your master, do something like this. How should you treat other people? How should you serve other people? And it does come to other areas of our life. It is putting others before yourself. And that goes with everything. That plays a role into the family. As a husband, spending time with his wife and loving his wife. The children, taking that time and showing their value. All of that takes from self-sacrifice. Because if you try to put yourself before any of those things, you're going to lose everything. You're going to lose all those relationships. I look at my children as being very valuable to me.
Yeah.
That's why I'll run. You know, like today I had 2 baseball games. I'm running like crazy. And I'm going to stay all the way into the end. And I'm going to make this radio show. But I'm going to be there for my kids.
Absolutely.
Because
100%.
I want them to know that when they look into the stands or in the dugout, like, there. Because this is these are building blocks in their life. And I truly believe that one of the reasons why we see us in the United States of America, if you do like research on the last 60 years of the United States of America, when the family unit began to break down and other things started to come in, become more important, everything else skyrocketed.
Yep.
Teen pregnancy skyrocketed. Suicides have skyrocketed. Every single thing of immorality. And that's what happens when people are left to themselves trying to make sense of this life apart from the Lord first, but also having nothing to have an identity. A lot of people don't know what a family is.
Nope.
And the Bible says that God has brought a family unit together, a mom and a dad, the children, brothers, sisters, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, all these, they play a role in our lives. They're shaping moments. And when you don't have a solid foundation and you're given all these different influences, you don't have no stability. You deal with people a lot of time. They have no connection. They don't know how to communicate because they've never been taught how to talk nice to somebody and have care for somebody and show value to somebody. It's all about do whatever you have to do to get to the top. Belittling people, that's what everybody else does. That's what this kid does. That's how we treat women. That's how we live this lifestyle. That's how we put on this facade. But it's all fake. And it's something that our society is reaping the consequences of that mentality. And until we change, until we're broken by the Lord, those things can actually be able to be restored in our own particular lives. But the world as itself, oh man, it's a great, great mess. And I think that's why we have such a great call. You know, one thing that Loli was talking about when she came through here earlier is like, she's seen the vision of God, the call that God has given to her to being in the makeup industry, which is a booming industry in so many ways, right?
Major.
So many people are, connected to it, always following up with it. But there's lives, there's relationships there. Loli, why don't you talk a little bit to the audience of like, how you feel like God's placed you to have boldness and connection with these people and have other people that maybe are believers but kind of feel like ashamed or fearful of dealing with people.
Well, I think, obviously, again, it's going to be your personal journey with the Lord. And, before I answer this, just to kind of touch back, one of my favorite things that God showed me about being a servant was, his first miracle when he turned the water into wine. He revealed it to who first? The servants. And I just remember thinking, I wish I could have been a servant there because I wanted to. They were the first ones to see that miracle take place, and he revealed it to the servants. And I thought, if I'm going to be on a team, I'm going to be on that servants team.
Dude, that's interesting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The servants of all.
Yeah, but not, that kind of goes to, as believers in an industry that is typically not believer driven or believer dominated, if you want to become a well-known, speaker, a prosperity speaker, or, an encourager, sure, it's going to be dominated by people who think positively. So you can fall into that little comfort zone there. You know what I mean? But when you're dealing with people with self-worth images and you're dealing with pride and arrogance, and you're the minority in that because you believe that this is not what is beautiful, the things that I put on my face do not make me more beautiful. It's who's in my heart and how I love my husband and the way that my husband loves me and the dynamics of that, because that's what I know to be beautiful and authentic. And when you believe this way and you believe in serving others first because you want to be on that servanthood table, you want to be there and reap the benefits of being a servant, that's not normal. And guess what? As a believer, you're probably going to get beat up for it. I'm not going to lie, and if anybody's out there in the audience and they're in this industry, I know for a fact that you've cowered at one point or another, because I do. I still do at times. When I'm weak and I'm being tossed and torn back and forth in my own shortcomings, it's very, very easy for me to slip into the role of, I'll just be a makeup artist. I'm just put on pride today. That looks pretty.
Yeah.
And fall into that camouflage. But as believers, we're called to be peculiar. And there's no more peculiar a crew than a makeup artist team. Just look behind me. You know what I'm saying? Like, these chicks are weird. But what's really awesome about it is knowing our worth. And as a believer, if you're in this industry, my number one piece of advice to you is shut your mouth, get on your knees, seek the King, and tattoo his word on the esophagus of your throat so that everything you say, whether it's about God or not, whether it's about a makeup brush or foundation, has to pass through that word first. Because, for example, if I'm putting foundation on a girl, guess what? The word's coming out. People laugh all the time, but I'm like, hey, you have to have a good foundation so that it doesn't break down halfway through the day. If you want it to have longevity and you want it to last throughout the day and you want it to, be able to have something to be built on it, you've got to have a foundation first. Isn't that like life? Isn't that like marriage? So at the end of the day, if his word is tattooed on the esophagus of my throat, everything passes by it. So you believers out there who are makeup artists, suck it up, get on your knees, cry out like Jeremiah, weep for the people that are on your client list. Because we have our client list a day, weeks, months, years. Like for me, I'm almost booked up 2017. I know who my clients are going to be this time next year. Guess what? I'm crying for them. I'm going to pray for them. So suck it up. Stop being a wuss. Get into his word. God was no punk.
Yep.
I mean, he's our king. So what do we have to lose? What? People not liking you, defriending you? You lose a client or two?
You're going to lose a follower on Instagram.
Oh my
It's going to be serious.
And you know what? If you get that app, unfollow, you see who unfollows you.
If you just tuned in, this is Live with Ryan Ries. We have Loli Romo in studio talking about some craziness about just her life in the makeup industry. So, no, you got to stand. You know what? I read something. I don't know if it was Chuck Smith or someone said it says, you got to stand for something or else you'll fall for everything. That was a Chuck Smith quote.
Yep.
It's so true. If you don't stand for anything, then you're just like the man in James, tossed to and fro.
Right.
And who cares? I love hanging out with, I love hanging out with people that are either just hardcore, but whatever they believe. If they're like hardcore, like if they're an atheist or a Mormon, whatever it is, like if they're even a hardcore atheist or a hardcore Mormon or whatever religion, you're like, dude, they believe in this and they're not going to be shaken. Like, you don't even have to like these guys are hardcore. These guys are the real deal about their thing. You love them, obviously, but that not to mess with them. And in the same way, those ones that you're like, oh, this guy's not really down with his own business. Like, I could persuade him or whatever.
I don't respect that.
Exactly, because I could persuade him. You have to stand for something, or else you'll fall for anything. For sure.
It's cool. My husband, years and years ago, I remember we were walking down the streets of downtown San Diego, and there was this Muslim dude like on the corner, and all of a sudden he pulled out his mat and he started praying towards the east. And I was like, ugh. Like, in my head, I'm just like, ugh. I'm fired up. Like, and my husband's like, you know what? I respect that dude. And I looked at him, I was like, what? He's all, you know what? Get on your knees right now and pray to God in front of everybody.
Dang!
And I just looked at him. I was like, why you gotta do that to me always? Why you always gotta put me in place?
Hey, cereal.
But he was like, for reals. He's all, you may not believe what he believes, and you know your truth. But at the end of the day, he's got more faith in what he believes than most believers. And so you know what? If I could, I'd go shake that guy's hand. Not because we believe the same, but because he's willing.
Yeah.
He's willing, number one, to lay it all down and show you.
What's interesting? What's interesting about that is that a lot of religions across the board, they are way more hardcore and have way more knowledge than the Christians. You go talk to a Christian and they're like, "Hey, so you're a Christian. So what do you believe? That Jesus died on the cross for my sins." End of story. Like, do you know anything else? Like, you start asking about the New Testament, the Old Testament, the Ephesians.
Right.
They don't know anything.
And they
know the basics. And like, how long you been a Christian? 10 years.
And that's the treasure. Like, I remember my
crazy.
mom. We weren't wealthy by any means. My mom and dad worked hard. And I remember my mom always telling me, find the treasure in everything, Loli. Even when we would go to the beach because we were super poor and we didn't have anything and all we had was hot dogs, she wanted to make it a hot dog bonfire. You know what I mean? And cook white rice and, thing. And we were like, oh man, we don't even have matches. And she pushed the old bonfire pit and it flew up with fire. And we were like, we got fire, you know? And I just remember growing up like that and having this amazing treasure-like faith where everything and anything, there was a treasure because the nuggets were coming from the word of God.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just got done talking to my friend about tithing because she was like, man, I'll get it. I said, man, let me just tell you this cool story, you know, in the Old Testament and how the crops, when they would grow, you know, they didn't have, you know, oh, this is spring flower time. This, you need to prune this now. They had to trust God for enough rain. They had to trust God for enough sunshine. They had to trust God for enough cloud cover. And they had to trust God to multiply. And so when that first wheat would grow, they would take the first tenth of it, go on the top of the hill where the wind was, and worship the Lord. And the wind would blow that 10% and multiply it. And it was like giving back. And I was telling him, so you know, you as a hairstylist, because my friend's a hairstylist, wouldn't you want him to multiply? Are you going to multiply on your own by picking each one of those things and shoving it into the ground? Or are you going to go up to the top of the hill and worship the Lord with the first fruits of what he's given you so that he can take that seed and expand? Mm-hmm. But with that comes that freedom. You know, when you have that understanding, you don't have to try and save anybody. You don't have that power. One of my favorite quotes was, preach the gospel at all times, use words only when necessary.
I love it. Mm-hmm.
That is straight up how I need to live in my job. Every single day. Nobody wants to hear about Jesus.
Yep. My grandma, she was a hardcore missionary in Colombia, and I read a letter after she passed away. She gave me a letter, and then at the bottom it says, what does it say? It says, your life is the best sermon you could ever give.
Yeah.
It's just your life.
True.
You know, it goes along with, you know, what you were saying. Just live your life for people will know there's something different about you.
I think your dad told me that my life was the only Bible that some people would ever read.
Yep.
And I remember he said that to me because I remember talking to him and he's like, you know what, Loli? Because he reminds me of my dad. He's like, hey, you know what, Loli? I mean, that was
they
really
They got the same accent,
It's
actually.
crazy, man. It must be that era or something, you know.
Error.
You know, but I just remember your dad telling me, hey, you know, sometimes, because I remember struggling when we were going to bring Daughters of the King on with the Whosoevers and all this stuff and thinking, okay, God, is this what you want me to do? But this is not where you have me, but yet this opportunity is here and I love these people, but I know that I'm on the outside of the church. That's where you called me. Mm-hmm. So I just remember struggling with that internally. Like, do I just do it because it's there and it's good and I'm in good company and it's easy? Or do I walk away from it and pursue what you called me to do in the first place? And I remember asking your dad, being like, man, he asked me, hey, how you doing today? And I looked at him, I said, man, I'm struggling. This sucks. Like, my head is blasted right now. And he was like, your life is going to be the only Bible some people read. And right there and then I was like, done.
Answer.
Cut it. I'm out. Drop the mic.
That's it. But you know what you were talking about a little bit ago when you're like, all these other faiths, like kind of like they show their dedication in other aspects, you know? And some of them show their dedication by, you know, like you were bringing up, Loli, that example of the guy getting down on his knees and with his prayer rug and just praying. But when it comes to what we're talking about, walking out the Christian faith, it's like, does your life back up what you were saying? That's what it comes down to. Because it's not just having Bible knowledge, because a lot of people are going to have Bible knowledge and break down the whole Old Testament and New Testament, but does it affect the way that you live your life?
Yep.
Does it affect the way that you treat your family, your children, the way you do business, the way that it comes out? Because your influence of your life is either going to be a smelling aroma of Christ, or it's like, man, I want what he has or what she has. I have the opportunity to do a lot of funerals, and I'm somebody that kind of thinks like in a lot of reflection. A lot of times I'm just kind of built that way. And so when you have people that are there talking about this person that when they died, those that like, dude, serve God and were just like on point, dude, is impacting so many people that rejected God so many times. That's why funerals sometimes are the ground where God begins to change and transform lives, because they're like, man, I watched that person not only live, but I watched how that person died.
100%.
And they died with faith, like believing when they were tested in life, like, no, it was true. It was real. The way that they went to work and dealt with me, the way that they showed love to me, like that's genuine. And you'll see people that will come out of the woodworks after time by just your relationship with people. Yeah. You know, it's not always preaching a sermon. it is living out the sermon. People have questions, be ready to give an answer. But the greatest way is your consistency. Somebody asked me the other day, I'm praying for my family, and I'm trying to share with them. I'm trying to share all these different things. He's like, what else can I do? I'm like, number one, the Lord is the one that changes a life. The Lord is the one that brings people to salvation. Let your life be a sweet-smelling aroma of Christ. Let me give this other thing. Dale Moody's one of my favorites.
Oh, me too.
One of the things he said back in the day, back then, in the United States of America, big things were coming to town, and one of them was a circus. Big circus was coming into town, so all the freak shows were coming out all over the place. So he was like, man, we get D.L. Moody there, get him a platform, he'd be able to preach. And one of the big things that's coming out in the 1800s was Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormonism. And he's like, you can go on this platform and just show them how wrong they are, and just kind of do a whole thing on these false religions. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to preach Christ, and I'm going to make him so attractive that they'll leave any of those false concepts of God.
That's amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Well, you guys, I think we have about 2 minutes left. Loli, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
It was epic. The one thing we didn't get to talk about is you are, what would you get? You got a degree in what?
Mortuary science. I'm a mortician.
We have 1 minute left. Tell us 1 minute of what's that all about.
It's a pretty awesome thing when you get to see sorrow and hope in one breath.
Yeah.
And I see that in the families of the ones who are mourning. And that's where God has me at that moment.
And God's using you big time in that whole area.
Yeah. Closure.
Yeah.
It's not the end.
See that? God, you know what? You got to go where God's called you to go. And these opportunities, like you said, sometimes you have these opportunities that make sense. Good people, good company. There's financing. It's all good, but it's not, God's will.
Yep.
So if you guys been listening, this is Live with Ryan Ries. We have Loli Romero in studio. You could find her on Instagram.
Romo.
What did I say? What?
Romero.
Romero.
I'm married to
What's
Tony
your Instagram?
Romo. Loli DOTK. LOLI-DOTK.
Done deal. And if you want to find out more about the Whosoevers, you could just go to thewhosoevers.com. We got sick product. We're doing high school tours. Any donations you give help us fund our high school tours. We're just going out and reaching out to that broken community, those kids. Yep. 50% of kids in California come from broken homes. So that father figure we were talking about doesn't exist.
Yep.
And then that mother figure that's there is at work 24/7.
Yep.
So it's crazy times, and this is what I want to say earlier. It's crazy times we're living in, but what's amazing is the harvest is ripe and the workers are few. Who will they send? God will use any of us. He's not. The Bible's full of men, godly men with their failures and God's grace all through the Bible. Mm-hmm. And if you just give your life to God and follow Him, He'll show you what path to take, and He'll use you to love on people, and then through that will usher people into the kingdom. We love you guys. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
This has been Live with Ryan Ries. To connect or find out more about Ryan, click on ryan-reese.com. Check us out next Saturday at 9 p.m. for Live with Ryan Ries.